Alexis, a consultant here at Valiantys. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can accelerate your onboarding process by using automation for Jira to create Active Directory accounts. I'm going to walk through how to fully automate using Microsoft Entra user creation based on an onboarding request in Jira. We'll take the user data from the JSM ticket, we'll create the Entra account using Power Automate, and then we'll send the new account information right back into the JSM ticket. Note that before we start, we do need a few things, so there's going to be some custom fields we need to create, as that's where the data that we are going to send over to Power Automate is going to be. We need to create some automations, and then we need to set up that Power Automate configurations. To start, we're going to set up the prep work that we need in order to create the automation flows. So let's go right ahead and get into those JSM configurations. To start, you're going to need to know what request type that you want to use, as well as have those fields set up. So if you don't already have those fields created, just click on this gear cog right here, and then click on work items, and then you'll be able to go to custom fields and then create those. I already have my custom fields created, so I'll just show you. And I also, for my request type, I threw them in a form to attach to the request type, so that way it's already there. Very easy to modify and fill out. So I'm using the onboard a new employee, and in here I have my form. So I have what is the legal first name, last name, job title, department, and the fields that I'm passing over are new user first name, new user last name, job title, and department. There are two other fields that I created, and those ones are going to be created user email and created user ID. This is going to be what Entra sends back to let us know that the account was in fact created. So with those custom fields created, we know exactly what we are going to send over. So let's go ahead and let's do one automation as just some prep work. And this one is totally optional. You do not have to do this. However, for a nice standard practice of onboarding requests, you want to have a standardized name. That way you know not only what the ticket is, but who it's for. So I have a automation right here that this is going to set the summary and the approver for these requests. In order to trigger off this onboarding request, it's going to be HR that has to approve these requests, and then those accounts get created. So that way we're not having any random user account get created when someone wants to. We make sure that it is vetted properly. So within this, I have it set when these onboarding issues are created to then automatically set the summary to set the first name and last name, as well as set Billy as the approver. So with that, that is the baseline of what we need to send the Power Automate. So in Microsoft Entra, or you can also use the Azure menu, what we need to do first is we need to create an app registration. So under Home, go to App Registration, and then click on New Registration. I have clicked on Single Tenant because I only have one tenant. I gave it a name, and then make sure you click on Register. So my app registration here, I have it called JSM. And what you're going to need to note down right now is you're going to make sure you have on your clipboard the application ID. You're going to want to have your tenant ID. And then when we go into secrets and certificates, there's going to be a key that you're going to need to save there because we're going to use those in the Power Automate flow. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up the API permission. It's going to be crucial to make sure that you configure the user read write all for this. To do that, click on Add Permission, click on Microsoft Graph, Application Permission, and then start typing in user. And then click on this one right here. It says User Read Write All. If you do not have this, it will not be able to perform any of these actions. And then always when you click, make sure you hit Add Permission, save, that way it is there. And if you click on this and see that it doesn't say Grant for Tester, just click where it says Grant Admin, and then it'll grant all of those permissions for you automatically. Next, under certificates and secrets, what we need to do is we need to create a client secret. Now, for this, note that it's going to be very crucial. Once you create it, you give a description, set a time for it to expire. Once you hit create on this screen, where mine has a value and then it is asterisked out, you are actually going to have a full value. Make sure you copy that and paste it in your clipboard along with that tenant and application ID. If you do not, you will not be able to see that value anymore after you leave this page, and that value we need. So if you happen to lose that value or you change your page, you're going to need to create a new client key and then grab that new value for it. Once you have the client value and we have the secrets done, then what we need to do is we can head on over to Power Automate. So if we go in Power Automate, we're going to click on New Flow, and then we're going to start building our flow. So just to go into it, I already have my flow, but I'm just going to walk through and show you that when you do have your flow created, you do have a little dashboard. It'll show you your runs. It's going to show you some details, who owns it. To edit, go ahead and click Edit, which is where we're going to walk through. So now we are in Power Automate. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to walk through this Power Automate flow that's going to create the Entra user and then send some information back to Jira. So to start, we have our trigger. This is called manual. And what we are doing here is we are calling out all the fields that we're going to call out in that Jira webhook that we are sending that data to, or the data that it wants to grab. Once you finish this step, make sure you copy this HTTP URL. This is going to be the URL we need when we're creating that JSM webhook. But once we have that here, now we're in our token generator, and this is going to generate our token. In order to actually authenticate into the Microsoft area and then do these actions, we need to be able to have a token to authenticate to. So we are taking a token from Microsoft Graph and we are getting the ability to be authenticated. And then we're coming into this parse. So this is where we're actually taking the output of this token. That way we can use it in other areas, which you will see that we will call upon this token in other HTTP actions. And now we're doing a few things here. So we have our compose display name. So in this one, we are taking the first name and last name that were given separately in the form, and we're actually combining them together to be the display name, so it's going to be one full. In this UPN right here, we are actually taking that first name, last name, we are combining them together, and we are creating that email address, and we are attaching automatically the domain for this company, so that way everything is standardized and there's little room for error. Compose mail nickname, we are actually generating the username alias that's going to be used in the account creation request with Entra. In this compose secure password, what we're doing is we are creating a randomly generated password that's going to meet the security requirements to have a password. And then later you'll see when we're creating the user, we're actually going to trigger it to have the user change it when they sign in. Now we're coming down here. Not only did we need a Microsoft Graph token, but we also need our Atlassian API token. Since we're sending information back to Jira and we're also trying to update Jira fields, we need to authenticate against that. So you're going to need to make sure that you generate an Atlassian API token. I ran into issues where in order to get this accepted within Power Automate, you actually have to encode it. You can use other encoder websites, however, I ran into issues, so I just encoded directly within Power Automate to eliminate any type of error. So I have my user account, and then I have my API token generated from Atlassian. And then here, I'm simply taking it and I'm physically encoding it and I'm storing the results so that way I can call upon this in later sections. And to make sure that I did have the proper authentication, I'm calling upon it to make sure that I am authenticated. And when you get past this area, you know that you can complete the rest of the steps below. So now we are getting into the fun part. We are actually creating our user. So we are using a post HTTP request and we are sending it from Microsoft Graph to Microsoft Entra to create the user. So we're setting attributes such as enabling the account, we're setting the display name, mail nickname, the UPN that from actions up top we've done. We're taking that first name, last name, job title, and department that was just sent over from JSM, and we're going to paste that into the properties. And then we're also going to have our password profile, so it's going to generate our password for us. It's going to spit that out for us within Power Automate, and then we will have the ability to grab that. So we could stop there. You don't have to go any below, but this is going to be farther down where you're actually going to send this information from Power Automate to the JSM ticket. So first what we need to do is that we actually need to parse the responses. So we need to know what that UPN is and what that ID is, which is going to be their Microsoft Entra ID, because that's what we're going to pass over to JSM to help people verify that, hey, this user got created and this is their email address. So in here, we are taking the result from create user and we are just parsing that information. Then what we are doing is we are taking the information from above, so we are going to find that issue key. We are using that token that we generated and got encoded, and then we are updating the following fields of the email and the ID. Note that when it comes to editing and updating fields in Jira, it's not going to be a post method, it's actually going to be a put method. Post is only going to be when you're sending the data that's going to be fresh rather than something that's going to be already existing and updating it. So now what we're going to do is we also want to comment. We don't just want it to update those few fields. So we are now composing a comment, and we're going to have a standard comment saying Microsoft Entra account has been created, and it's going to also paste in from those two fields that we are setting, the email address and the ID. So in this step, we're just formatting it. And then finally, we have our last post action, and this is actually going to create the comment. That's why you see that post method, because we are sending new data over. And in the body here, we are formatting it in the format that Jira likes, so that way we can ensure that it gets properly formatted and verified to be added. Once you create all this, make sure you hit save. Give it a name. I just named and create new user. So make sure before you go over, click on your manual, and now you should see a URL link for this. Click on copy, and then we're going to head on over to our Jira site, and we're going to create that API automation. I already have mine created, so I'll just walk through. Mine is going to be when HR approves, so we know that the issue is approved when it goes from waiting for approval to waiting for support. We're going to make sure that this doesn't just run anytime an issue gets approved, so we're going to specify and call out that it's only for the onboarding requests. Then, to make sure that the assignee on the ticket knows that the user account is starting to be created, it's going to automatically leave this internal comment, and it's going to say account is being created for first name, last name. And then the fun part is we actually have our web request. So that link we copied for that URL, we're going to post that right here. We're going to set our HTTP method to post custom data, and then in this box right here, just like you saw in our Power Automate when we were mapping that little type of field, we're also mapping it here. Except within here, we are actually mapping the Jira field to pass along to what field for Power Automate. So we have to make sure that we call out those key fields. And to do that, when it comes to these custom field IDs, if you click on this right-hand corner, you'll be able to select custom fields. And in here, you can click copy, and you can automatically find that exact field you need and paste it directly there. That way you eliminate any error of searching and trying to guess what that ID is. Once we have that, we just need to make sure that we have our content type header and then our application JSON value. After that, we're done. We have everything that we need to possibly make this work. The last step we have to do is just test it out. So let's go do it. So on the portal, we'll go ahead and we will submit an onboarding ticket. So we're also going to raise this request on behalf of Bryce, since he is the manager. And we're going to onboard William Duck. And he is a retired hunter. And William is in the finance department, and he is going to start on May 19th. And we will say, for additional information, he would like a laptop. Now we're going to hit send, and we have created our ticket. So we're going to go ahead and go to the agent view of this ticket. We're going to see here that the automation we had that set the summary and the approver had already came into play. We see here that Billy Mallard is the approver, and it did rename that ticket. So now we're going to look over as an HR person. We're going to make sure all this looks good. William Duck definitely seems like someone we want to onboard, so we're going to go ahead and hit approve. And now what's going to go on here is we have our webhooks running. Our automation for Jira is going to run first, and it's going to create all this. And wow, look at that. That's real fast. So we can see here that the comment right here, automation for Jira, said, hey, this user account's now being created. And not many seconds later, we can see here that it says Microsoft Entra user account has been created. Here is the email address. Here is the Entra ID. We can see that the information has been pasted here in the side. And if we go back to our Power Automate and we hit refresh, we'll be able to see that we had a successful run. And you could also click on it and you can view within each step any of the output values. So we can see here that all of these, the amount of time they took, and even see what their inputs were and then what they outputted. You can be as granular as you want with this. You could do many different things, not just with this AD account. You could take this a step further and do multiple accounts. Or if you have SSO created, you could utilize this ability to, within Power Automate, actually add the users to the SSO group that grants Atlassian access, and that would be something else that gets handled. So the amount that you can handle within an API hook is quite incredible. So I do urge you and I challenge you to go check this out. Go mess around and see just how powerful the API hooks are to not only elevate your onboarding experience, but to automate so much more. Thanks for watching.